Millions of us play Rocket League each year, and many of us could only ever dream of reaching Grand Champion, let alone becoming a World Champion. But out of all those millions, only a handful of players can say they're the reigning World Champions. Winning the RLCS just once is an insane feat in itself, but what if you had won it multiple times and were still overlooked as one of the best players in the world? Today I'm going to be telling you the story of the most underrated player in Rocket League history.
Ladies and gentlemen, your world champions,
Panda, any quick thoughts?
It feels amazing, man. No, nothing else. It feels amazing to stand there and just winning this tournament finally.
Now ViolentPanda, still got boost, still got a chance, he's not got it in, but there! It's Turbopolsa! There's going to be ViolentPanda. Could that drop down for him? It's going to be on Kaydop! Just trying to find any way out of this stranglehold that NRG has them in. But now ViolentPanda, he's got it over the tap of absolutely everyone!
Can ViolentPanda get enough control before they drop back the defense? He's off the ceiling, he's got the flip! And he gets it! ViolentPanda!
Hold me! Hold me! Pass off to Turbo! Saved! Follow up from ViolentPanda! Turbopolsa with it up high. Gets the flick. Turbo! Three-time world champion!
To this day, after 9 seasons of RLCS and 8 World Championships, there have only been 3 players crowned as World Champion multiple times. First you have Turbopolsa, who has won an astonishing 50% of the world titles. Kaydop coming in second, closely behind him, having won 3, and finally you have ViolentPanda, who has won 2 of the World Championships. So how is it that Panda is the sole remaining player of that dynasty trio left at the helm of the EU fan favourite Dignitas ship, consistently steering them to success, yet at the same time always going completely under the radar and being forgotten about when people speak of the best players in the world? We always have the usual suspects in consideration for best player in the world. Let's take Justin as an example. It's hard to disagree with someone who claims him to be the best. He's a walking highlight reel. With Season 9 not having a World Championship tournament, he's technically still a reigning world champ. He's had some of the most memorable and clutch moments in competitive Rocket League history, and he's still only 17 years of age. But as much as all the flashy skill, speed and consistency of play are all extremely important, there are certain things some players bring to the table that you simply can't teach. ViolentPanda has many of these unseen skills in abundance. He's a real leader. He's extremely unselfish on the pitch and has an incredible calmness about him that's pretty much unfathomable given the surroundings he finds himself competing in. What you're watching now was not only from the RLCS World Championships, but it was during the Grand Finals. Look at the composure, look how relaxed he is when playing. He's simply the perfect captain for your team during such intense moments. And not only does he show extreme composure, but his comms are quite simply second to none. So why is ViolentPanda so overlooked and underappreciated? Well, if we look at his tournament placings over the years, we can see that he's been right up there with the best of them, either winning or coming close in the majority of events he's competed in. A player might get carried through a game or two, or even be carried through an entire event to a decent placing, but when you take a look back at his career standings, they're pretty incredible. And some of you may only care or be aware of RLCS and DreamHack events, but every single competitive event really does help shape you as a professional player, which is why looking at ViolentPanda's career placings is so important.
Astro passes it to Panda, he's got Yukio, he goes for Yukio, and it's another crucial block, but nobody will prevent ViolentPanda from turning it in! Revenge is finally his! The regional championship belongs to Dignitas!
Keep it calm, call everything. Come on, dude. Let's go. Let's go, dude.
Come on.
Go. Come on. Let's go. Come on, that's a good pass. Let's win this. Let's go.
Calm down.
Okay, so maybe Panda does know how to bring the hype on main stage, but don't let that fool you into thinking he isn't still composed. Season 8 brought us one of the most, if not the most intense series of professional Rocket League I've ever witnessed. I was in Madrid watching the semi-final series between Dignitas and the then reigning champions Vitality, and oh boy was it something special. There have been some insanely memorable moments over the years, but I don't think anything will ever top this series. Dignitas found themselves 3-1 down in the series and needed to go unbeaten in the remaining 3 games to keep their tournament hopes alive. They ended up taking Game 5 in stunning overtime fashion with this beautiful fake from Yukio, which without even knowing it was going to take us into the best game of Rocket League I've ever seen. Game 6 of this series was a closely fought 1-1 draw in regular time, but the overtime that was about to ensue was nothing short of mind-blowing. But not only was this a mind-blowing overtime because of how intense the gameplay was, with there being a total of 19 shots and 16 saves recorded in those extra 5 minutes of the match.
Round 2, Kaydop for the win! Here's Astral for the win! Over the top, 2 in a row. Astral, back out to Astral, shots up. He knew that pickup in the midfield wasn't good, and very peak shot with an opportunity to win it here in Game 6. It's not going to happen. That's it! Astral blocked! ViolentPanda up! He finds a shot, actually, and now the way. Now Astral back across. Wide. Is there any follow-up? Astral wants to put a space to work. They actually rotate back. 2 of them leave it. Play. Here's Kaydop, but he puts it high. Very Peak with the follow-up. Oh my goodness, very Peak shots in there. Here's Scrum for the win. No! Defended. ViolentPanda holds on. Kaydop, can he do it? No! Placement and finesse over power. Trying to slip it through defenders. And the dunk is there. Yukio! He puts it over the edge. Oh, and he does it! We go to Game 7!
But it was also mind-blowing because after hearing the Dignitas comms from this very series, ViolentPanda stepped up to the mark and truly captained his team to victory in this game. The average viewer might have watched this game thinking that Panda didn't really do anything special, but they couldn't be further wrong.
First, I'm 0, I bumped on.
Yeah.
Come back. Right side, 1 up. Over, double.
You got it.
Nice read, I'm 20 back, 20 back. 20 in out, 20 in out.
Try Panda.
Fake, you can go.
I'm up.
Careful down.
He does now, I'll go.
Tony.
Taking the boost, come back.
Time.
Okay,
He's
go
coming
back.
now.
I'm 20 boost, I'm 20 boost.
Middle.
I'm fake, bump, block. I'm 0.
I go.
Yes.
Stuck on their side, careful.
Bump.
He's there. I got it. I'm behind
Yeah,
you.
go.
I'm back full. now. Time.
Go.
Back for 2.
Time.
Left.
Time. 1 on side now. Good job.
Go ahead.
1 there. I'm waiting behind you. I'll go. Fake. You can go.
Yeah.
Got it. Over him.
Good one.
Having a boost.
I
Left
go.
side. I'm left.
Left fall. Blocking 2.
You kill. You have time. You have time. Dribble it.
18.
I'm behind you. I'll go.
18.
30 boost.
Mid.
Yeah, he's there. He put beat him.
I go.
I'm 0.
Up.
I'm 0 back.
Fast.
Okay.
He's there, careful.
I'm 20 back. 20.
Dribble. Shot. You got it, Panda.
Cat. You.
He's up.
Go.
Over. One there. Nice.
What's the
I'm 20
time?
boost.
Time.
I'm 0.
Time.
These comms were consistently the same through not only every game of this series, but also during the most intense overtime in RLCS history. Unfortunately, following this win, Dignitas fell short in Game 7, losing 1-0 in another tight 5 minutes of play. Just like in many different sports, there is always a certain type of player, or even player position or role that gets highlighted week in week out. In football you have the likes of Messi and Ronaldo, both very skillful and dangerous on and off the ball in any attacking position. In the NFL it's often the quarterback, running back or wide receivers that get a lot of the credit simply because of some of the beautiful plays they make. And this goes across pretty much every team-based competitive environment. But what about the goalkeeper who's on the other end of Ronaldo's knuckleball, preventing his team from conceding? And what about the kicker in Gridiron, who actually will often put up the most points out of any player in his team? Just because he spends the least amount of time on the pitch, people seem to forget just how important of a role he's playing. And this leads me on to my next point. Although ViolentPanda might not always put up the most points or score the most goals, the guy is one of the best passers of the ball in Rocket League, putting up ridiculous amounts of chances on a silver platter for his teammates, and assisting pretty much every one of their needs on the field. So do I think ViolentPanda is the best player in the world? Maybe, maybe not. You see, Rocket League is such a diverse game with near enough every pro player having some form of unique quality about their own individual playstyles, that in my opinion, makes it impossible to state who the best player in the world actually is. Splitting it into different factors such as world titles, skill level, in-game leadership, etc., then he is undeniably one of the best players in the world. Based solely off skill, then he might not necessarily be classed as one of the best players in the world, as his playstyle isn't as flashy as the likes of Justin or Astral. But then going off world titles, he would naturally slot into the 3rd position in anyone's list. I genuinely had no reason to make this video. Let's be real, ViolentPanda probably doesn't even know who I am at this stage. I just noticed that over the past months and even years, he wasn't receiving the credit I believe he truly deserves. So on that note, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao!